Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us about in an inclusive economy. I am so excited to be able to be joined by my colleague, Philip Gaskins, the VP of Entrepreneurship at the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation, and Tawanna Black, the CEO and founder of the Center for Economic Inclusion. So we're in a moment right now. We're in an unprecedented pandemic that has really exposed the inequalities that are in our systems. And we've just been experiencing a series of events that has shown us, once again, the injustice and racism that is present within our nation. So here we are to talk about what could be in a time that feels very challenging to think through what's next. But I think that this is an important conversation because we have to think about not going back, but actually going forward to a place, a time, and an economy that really is inclusive to all. So I want to start with you, Tawanna, because you are truly in the epicenter, Minneapolis, St. Paul area. This cry across our nation for justice and equity started. And, as you have dedicated your work around this issue of economic inclusion, how do you think that the future can be envisioned where there's opportunity for all, independent of race, ethnicity, gender?
Well, first, a big thank you to both of you for the invitation to join you. And I must say a thank you to folks who are participating in the conference and the summit who have certainly been pouring out not only support, but solidarity to us here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, knowing that injustice is taking place all over not only our country, but our entire, and we're in this together. So I appreciate the solidarity. I think the notion of what it means for us to create a just economy means that we have to recognize the injustices that have taken place since our country's founding. That America was founded upon injustices. And so it requires us to understand that history and what it means for us to see all people thriving economically, to be able to measure that not just in terms of employment, but the very topic that we're talking about now, for individuals to be able to write their own story through entrepreneurship and business ownership, but for that to mean not only having a business, in terms of having an EIN number, but to actually have the opportunity to grow a business, to grow employment for others, to be able to grow it in terms of wealth. And that's a line of sight that far too few people of color, far too many Black individuals, Indigenous individuals have had the opportunity to do and to sow into. And unfortunately, far too few large corporations and institutions, policymakers have been able to write their own story into. And so our work at the center has been about helping to shift that, to help corporations, executives, policymakers think differently about how to change our systems and our structures such that we create that true American dream for everyone. And entrepreneurship is right in the center of that.
Thank you so much. So Philip, we, with a collective of other folks, started the America's New Business Plan. And, we recognize that entrepreneurship is essential for innovation, for commerce, but it's not representative of everyone. So what do you think is the role of policymakers and leaders currently to really strengthen access to entrepreneurship for all underrepresented groups?
Miles, thank you for that. Thanks for the introduction earlier, Tawanna. Wonderful to see you. And thank you for everything you're doing there in Minneapolis. Thanks for everyone that's with us today in solidarity in this conversation. So Philip Gaskin, the Vice President of Entrepreneurship at Kauffman Foundation, and I lead the Foundation's entrepreneurship portfolio, which includes our grant making, research, policy, entrepreneur learning support, and our communities work. And we've heard so many statistics about how underserved populations are just not getting the support, whether it range from capital to other resources, regardless of where they are. And what I say is when we try to run an entrepreneurial economy that puts a lid on Black and brown entrepreneurs, that misfires on half its cylinders concerning women, and hasn't yet implemented a national solution for rural America, that's a sure performance for underperformance. So at Kauffman Foundation, Miles, you mentioned, we believe that anyone with an idea, regardless of who that person is or where they're from, should be able to turn an idea into a business. And those entrepreneurs who have created our nation's small businesses need that support now more than ever. And so to build greater support for those entrepreneurs, last year, we launched America's New Business Plan in October of last year to try to reduce those barriers on new business creation. So America's New Business Plan, it's a bipartisan policy roadmap to support entrepreneurs with recommendations for federal, state, and local government to take action. And there are 4 key specific steps that policymakers can do to strengthen entrepreneurship now and in the future. First one's opportunity, leveling the playing field and less red tape that entrepreneurs have to go through. And so that can range from streamlining the process of how you start a business to reining in occupational licensing and making that not as difficult, unleash the job creating power of immigrant entrepreneurs. Second one is funding, equal access to the right kind of capital everywhere. So a couple of things that can be done: unleashing online tools that drive alternative funding opportunities across the nation, especially here in the heartland part of the United States where Kauffman Foundation is based, making a national commitment to expanding access to capital for all entrepreneurs. Support is another one, the ability to take risks. Entrepreneurs take risks. Entrepreneurship is risk-taking. So entrepreneurs hesitate sometimes. They don't get into the game. They're worried about, how do I get started? So what about providing healthcare options for early stage entrepreneurs so they don't have to worry about that, or providing entrepreneurs relief from student debt? And then the fourth one is knowledge, so the how-to start a business. And so some ideas around that, integrating entrepreneurship into K-16 education, creating pro-entrepreneurship workforce and training programs. There's a whole host of things that can be done for the bevy of entrepreneurs that are out there that want to get in the game, that should get in the game, that deserve to be in the game. And we really look forward to more organizations being involved in our coalition.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Philip. So you mentioned towards the end there the role of K through 12 education, and I'm curious from both of you, when you think about how to really increase the opportunities, what is the role of public education to expose and prepare students to either be entrepreneurs or to support entrepreneurship? And how can education increase access to underrepresented groups?
I think there are a couple of ways that we'd encourage public education, our systems, no matter whether it's public education or private education, to be thinking about that. One that we've elevated here in the Twin Cities, particularly from our Black communities and other communities of color, is for educators to start to close the belief gap that exists in our communities and help children start to see themselves as entrepreneurs. And one of the things that exists that Philip just mentioned is how we bring entrepreneurship into the curriculum, but also how we start to change the narrative. And so having educators who are able to speak really articulately and use data to be able to inform students about their own history as entrepreneurs and how that has informed our economy, both collectively within America, but also within individual communities, is going to be important in helping students see themselves down that career pathway in the same way that we talk about large mainstream career pathways. Another thing that we think is important is to be able to bring those entrepreneurs from different communities of color, bring women entrepreneurs into the classroom. So in the same way that we, again, bring mainstream STEM careers into the classroom, we have career training and opportunities to job shadow into careers that children are used to seeing, but we do the same thing with entrepreneurship. So it's a core part of curriculum, and students are able to embrace those pathways very early on.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and Miles, I'll take it from the policy perspective again, and how policymakers can help from an education standpoint. When I look at, how do we get entrepreneurship, or how do I start a business or create my own economic independence path into the curriculum earlier? And I always tell the story. I didn't know my father was an entrepreneur until the day he died, when someone mentioned the word, or shortly after, that he was entrepreneurial in what he did. Never heard the word in school, though. I never heard the word in school. I didn't even know what it was. So when you get entrepreneurship, understanding of how you can start a business, and those learning skills, those real world learning skills that you need earlier in the cycle, the better. Because starting a business it's a courageous act, and entrepreneurs, far too many, take risks without really knowing where to begin. How should I begin? What tools do I need? So policymakers can help by supporting policies that connect entrepreneurs to those type of resources, connect them to how to show them the ropes, get in programs that teach entrepreneurial skills. So I had mentioned, integrating entrepreneurship into K-16, federal, state, and local program to help grow the next generation of business owners. Embed that entrepreneurial know-how and spirit in the classroom, create those opportunities. What are those mind skills, behavioral skills, other type of entrepreneurial mindset type of support that they need, and tools that they need. Give students an opportunity to think differently, explore design thinking type of scenarios and prototyping, different type of problem solving and communications, especially as related to what's around them and their real world experiences in their communities and in their neighborhoods. So it's integrated. You'll hear me talk about interdependence and things being integrated to help spur entrepreneurship, and education is certainly one of those components.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I actually get the privilege of working on the education portfolio at the foundation. And we have currently an initiative that our districts have embraced called Real World Learning, where we are working just on that, really trying to make sure that all young people have an opportunity to experience actually challenging problems and be able to solve them. So we have a little bit of time left. I want to leave with this question. We've seen during this pandemic, obviously, the economic strain that it has had on small businesses, on entrepreneurs. And we know that the impact of that strain has been even more significant to business owners of color. So I'm curious, what have you seen work in your body of work for actually individuals to support local entrepreneurs? And what does that mean during this time specifically?
It's a trying time. And one of the things that we've been elevating here in our marketplace is that not only do we have business owners who have been impacted certainly by COVID-19, the downturn not only of the economy and needing to restrict themselves, but also in most states, I think across the country, we've had the need for whether gubernatorial direction or other restrictions. Many businesses, particularly those owned by people of color, were then doubly penalized because they needed to stop. And in our commercial corridors, where you have a higher number of retail business establishments, barbershops, beautician shops, restaurants that have been closed maybe 2 months, 3 months, I think there's a need for us, particularly whether we're in philanthropy or the public sector, to use a very specific race and place-based lens in our thinking about how we deploy resources, and making sure that we don't have universal solutions to problems that are not universal, but really applying that targeted universalism approach to ensure that we can really reach the specific needs of each business, and think about what goal we're trying to achieve when we help those entrepreneurs restart their businesses, right? And ensure that they're recovering in a way that allows them to not just open again, but really pursue the economic growth that they need to be able to ensure family sustaining wages, opening up to be able to meet the needs of their customers, doing so in a way that is safe and thriving, doing so in a way that makes sure, what's our measurement? Is that measurement simply opening, or is that measurement ensuring that they're still open in 18 months and 24 months? So using that framework that the Kauffman Foundation has not only created, but elevated, to think about the long haul for those businesses to be sustainable, providing technical assistance and ongoing support to those businesses, and even their customers and other networks. And I think the ability for commercial corridors, those locations where businesses are co-located, so that there's also some support networks for businesses to continue learning together in an era that none of us have ever seen. And to the point of the trauma that we've experienced, not only here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, but across the country, following yet another murder of an unarmed Black man, and then the uprising that has come from communities as we seek racial and economic justice throughout our country. Again, many businesses are suffering due to the damage that has occurred both through rioting, but then also other injustices occurring throughout our communities. So needing to not only check on the infrastructure of businesses, but also the trauma that exists within and among business owners of all races and backgrounds who are now saying, how do I get back to business when I also have things going on? And so I think those of us who are in the business of helping business owners have to be thinking much more complex ways than we ever have before about how we help those businesses thrive, not just in the next few weeks, but in the many months to come. We've got a lot of hard work to do.
Thank you, Tawanna. Yes, we do. Philip, we've been, working on how to give people some tools and how to support these efforts. So please tell us a little bit more about how we can support.
And the first one thing I said, thank you for that, Tawanna, as well. I would say that, we know that not the funding that's come out of the CARES Act and others programs aren't reaching enough brown and Black entrepreneurs. You can lobby to your local, state, and federal policymakers and lobby for more of that to support those, more of the funding to support those in your community. And speaking of communities, the community organizer coming out in me, which our entrepreneurship team knows very well, hears me say quite a bit at Kauffman, is, look, what are the things at the community level you can do? Do you know who your minority-owned businesses even are? How do you find them? Walk block to block, knock on doors, ask if they're not open, find out how you can reach their owner. Ask what you can do. How can I help? This is rebuilding better is about block by block. It's understanding the fabric of our communities and understanding how we are all independently connected in order to help each other. And so there are a number of ways to get involved with this. I mentioned America's New Business Plan. So the coalition, you can go to startusupnow.org, startusupnow.org. Learn about America's New Business Plan and our Rebuilding Better plan, which is specifically has a COVID-19 angle to it. And tell your policymakers to support us as well.
Absolutely. And so you see there on your screen what you can do. Remember, we're going to build forward instead of backwards. We're going to be different, so we're going to rebuild better. So follow us at Start Us Up Now on Twitter or Facebook. Join the coalition and sign up for the mailing list to keep up with information. And then, tell your policymaker what your thoughts are and what you feel like they need to do to support small and new businesses. So text Rebuild Better, and the information is there on your screen. Text at 52886. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking this time. Thank you for the words that you both shared, Tawanna and Philip. This has been an excellent conversation. I'm deeply appreciative for the honesty, the truth that was spoken, but also the vision for something better and different. We are going to leave it at that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.